beginning of the 1880s, French wine growers faced a problem that was destroying entire harvests. Vines were dying, leaves were rotting, fungi spread across entire fields. Many farmers already believed their vineyards were lost, because back then there were. No modern fungicides, no specialized chemicals, no industrial products capable of saving the crops. But suddenly, some wine growers noticed something strange. Right along the roadsides stood vines that looked far healthier than all the others. That made no sense, because those particular plants had been deliberately coated with a strange blue mixture, not for protection, but to discourage thieves. The grapes were supposed to taste bitter and look unappetizing, but instead, something completely unexpected happened. Those plants remained untouched by mold and fungal infections. There's a metal capable of killing mold, fungi, and even bacteria for centuries for just a few dollars. That metal can still be found today in old water pipes, on church rooftops, on gutters, and inside one of the oldest antifungal mixtures in modern history. That metal is copper, and this is how it began. People noticed the effects of copper long before they understood why it worked. They simply observed, on some materials, mold spread rapidly. On copper, far less. Stick with me. Because today I'm going to show you why copper can actually destroy microorganisms, how French wine growers used it to save entire harvests, why people once stored water in copper vessels, why hospitals used copper handles for decades, and why many modern anti-mold products are often just expensive versions of very old principles. Because what's happening here isn't magic. It's a combination of chemistry and biology, and possibly one of the oldest forgotten anti-mold systems ever discovered. You've probably seen this effect somewhere before. Think about old copper roofs or weathered copper pipes. Of course, the metal oxidizes over time, but something else happens surprisingly rarely: heavy biological growth. And that's exactly where the science begins. Copper releases tiny amounts of copper ions. Those ions directly attack microorganisms. They damage cell membranes. They disrupt enzymes. They interrupt metabolic processes. And they create oxidative stress inside the cells. For many fungi, bacteria, and mold spores, a copper surface essentially becomes toxic. And now it gets really interesting, because people used this effect long before modern microbiology even existed. In many regions, water was traditionally stored in copper jugs or copper containers. Why did they do that? Because people had observed that water stayed fresh much longer inside them. Today, we know that copper surfaces can, in fact, reduce large numbers of microorganisms. You've probably seen this principle your entire life without ever thinking about it. And here's something almost nobody knows anymore. Copper once played an important role in hospitals too. Before modern plastics became common everywhere, many door handles, bed frames, and contact surfaces were made from copper or brass. At first, this was mostly accidental. It simply looked good. But researchers noticed something unusual. Far fewer germs survived on those surfaces, and in fact, later studies showed that antimicrobial copper surfaces can significantly reduce microbial contamination and even lower certain hospital infection rates. Now, let's go back to the 19th century again. What do you think was the blue substance the wine growers used to protect their vines from thieves? Guess what? It was a mixture of copper, sulfate, and lime. That mixture later became famous as Bordeaux mixture, one of the first modern fungicides ever created. Because, imagine this, one of the most important antifungal technologies in modern agriculture is basically made from copper, lime, and water. That's it. No complex high-tech chemistry, no electronics, no specialized machines, and yet it still works surprisingly well today. But why does almost nobody talk about it anymore? If copper has been used against microorganisms for centuries, why do most people know almost nothing about it today? The answer is probably the same as with many old low-tech solutions. Simple things rarely generate recurring revenue. A copper jug gets sold once. An anti-mold subscription sells forever. And suddenly, an entire market appears around. Specialty sprays, air purifiers, filters, coatings, replacement cartridges, and endless repeat purchases. Don't get me wrong, modern systems can absolutely be useful, sometimes even necessary, but the actual chemistry behind many antimicrobial technologies is often surprisingly old. And this is where things become practical, because copper really can help contain smaller mold problems. Copper sulfate, in particular, was historically used quite often. You can recognize it by its intense blue color. And now listen carefully, because this is the important part. More does not mean better. Copper is biologically active. That's precisely why it works. And that's also why it should be handled responsibly. Here's a simple traditional application for smaller mold-affected areas. You need water, a small amount of copper sulfate, and optionally, lime. The lime reduces aggressive free copper ions and makes the mixture gentler on materials. The solution is then applied thinly onto affected surfaces. Historically, these mixtures were used on greenhouses, exterior walls, basements, wood, vineyards, fruit trees, and damp masonry. But there's one thing you should never forget. Copper mainly fights the biological growth, not the underlying cause. And that's exactly why mold often comes back. Because mold usually isn't the real problem. It's only the symptom. The real cause is moisture. Air naturally contains moisture. That's normal. But when cold surfaces fall below the dew point, water condenses. And that's exactly what happens inside homes, on cold walls, behind furniture, inside poorly ventilated corners. Physics doesn't negotiate. If moisture remains long enough, biological growth eventually appears. And now things become really exciting. Older buildings often worked completely differently from modern houses today. Many old homes were more breathable, more ventilated, less sealed, and used lime plaster or mineral materials instead of gypsum plaster. Moisture could simply escape more easily. Today, buildings are heavily insulated instead. They call it thermal efficiency. And while that saves energy, it can also increase condensation and moisture problems. Suddenly, you have the perfect environment for mold, not because of poor hygiene, but because of flawed building physics. And that's exactly why anti-mold products alone often aren't enough. Here's the real order of operations. First, reduce moisture. Second, improve air circulation. Third, treat the affected surfaces. Only then does the effect become stable long term. Now let's get to the practical minimal strategy. For smaller affected areas, dry the area first, then clean it, then apply treatment selectively, and finally improve air exchange. Shock ventilation helps far more than most people realize, especially in rooms with poor airflow, cold exterior walls, or high humidity. And now, one honest warning. Copper sulfate is not harmless. Natural does not automatically mean safe. Excessive amounts can contaminate soil, damage waterways, and harm microorganisms. So, use it sparingly. Do not spray it excessively. Wear gloves. Do not inhale it, and never dispose of it carelessly. That part matters. Because this kind of honesty is often missing from romanticized natural remedies. The truth usually lies somewhere in between. People in the past may not have understood chemistry, but they observed the world very carefully. They noticed copper stayed cleaner longer, water stayed fresher, fungi spread less easily, germs struggled to survive. And from those observations came solutions that still work today, not through complicated technology, but through material properties, observation, and experience. And maybe that's the larger insight here. Some forms of knowledge don't disappear because they stop working. They disappear because modern systems become louder. But the old principles still exist, quietly, unnoticed, and often surprisingly effective.